Hi and welcome to the Hytro Performance Podcast. We are at BWT Alpine F1 team talking to Abbi Pulling about her training and the amazing start she's had to this season. Let's get right into this then, because you are an incredible athlete. You've had the start of an amazing season already. So thank you for making time to speak to us. For those people that don't know you yet, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Abbi Pulling, racing in F1 Academy with Radio Motorsport for Alpine. What else? Also competing in British F4 this season. Already had a win in that, had a few wins in F1 Academy, and I'm on the Alpine Academy, lots of academies. Yeah, it's been an amazing season so far. I started when I was 8 and it's just evolved into being such an amazing thing now. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities along the way, all the people that have been in my corner and helped me get to where I'm now, and hopefully it keeps going.
Absolutely. Talk to me about being 8 years old and I'm assuming karting, to I'm going to make a decision to become a professional driver, and then you're in this, academy pathway, both with the F1 Academy and then Alpine, two amazing teams to have behind you. Like, how did you go from 8-year-old Abbi to now? What were the decisions? What was the pathway?
I mean, well, yeah, like you say, I started karting at the age of 8. I was always there with my dad. Me and my dad, it was me and him. He was my mechanic. Did it always for a hobby, for a lot of fun. Literally, even when I was at the point when I was 13, 14 years old, competing for British titles, every time he pushed me out, it was still, have fun. That was always what we went by. And still to this day, I think, I tell myself, make sure that I'm enjoying it. I think you perform at your best when you're happy and enjoying it. But yeah, I never grew up watching Formula One. My dad raced on motorbikes. Yeah. So I very much grew up watching MotoGP. So in my head, from the age of 8 to, or even younger than that, to 13 years old or 12 years old was just go-karts and motorbikes. That was all I really knew. And then when I was in a higher level of go-karting, fighting for junior titles, this is mixed competition as well, I was kind of like, oh, what else is there to do? What's the next step after this? And after becoming back-to-back champion, that was when I
just dropped that in.
Back-to-back champion in karting, it was like, I can't enter again, I've got to go do something else. So we went into car racing, which was amazing. And to be honest, I didn't have too much guidance. I didn't really know what was the stepping stone. I didn't have, I just didn't understand the wider picture, but I knew that I wanted to get there. It's just I didn't know how to get there. And neither did my dad. But then we got in touch with someone called Alice Powell, who manages me now, and she has been through it all, and she basically told me, right, you need to do this in the gym, you need to do more testing, you need to do this, do that, and here we are today. I managed to
every opportunity that comes.
Exactly.
So, do you think there's something in you and your dad being motorbike fans? Does that change how you view a track, approach a race? Because I'm assuming a bike takes a track different to a car, right? Stupid question, but do you think that plays into how you plan for a race, or are you all in on your car now?
Yeah, I'm all in on my car now for sure. And I'd say when I first started, it helped because my dad had a basic understanding of a racing line, but a racing line on a motorbike is very different to a racing line on four wheels. So it helped to some extent, and some things I didn't know because I was too young to be able to correct it. Now I'd correct him.
Your dad was like, why aren't you taking him inside? It doesn't move like a bike. So.
No, but he very much understood how it should work and the difference between the two. So his advice was really useful when I was getting into karting and finding seconds in my lap time, and then it got to the point where I was finding tenths, and that was where it was it was a bit harder maybe. I mean, it's always harder to find the really little gains, but definitely had to get some advice from a wider, broader bunch of people.
Were there any other sports in the mix when you were growing up? Any
Football.
Team sport? Football.
Yeah, mad on football. Goalkeeper. I was the only one that was brave enough to get dirty in the middle of a school day at lunch. So I absolutely, loved that. And I think it's got a lot of parallels to motorsport. Obviously, being goalkeeper, you've got to have good reactions,
Yep.
you've got to have very good judgment on your positioning and things like that, and
A lot of pressure weighing on you.
a lot of pressure, exactly. You're the last person that it
Yeah.
gets to, and it's up to you whether it goes in or doesn't. So
Yeah.
it's like in a car, you're on the car, you're the one doing the job, and it's.
So, in your time you spent already, do you have an idea of what makes a great motorsport athlete? I think as a TV fan of motorsport, it's hard sometimes for us to separate machine and driver. The more I've spoke to teams, we speak to some of the other F1 teams that we work with, other drivers, other coaches, and you realise as much work goes into the human as does the machine. So what do you now, as a driver, see builds the best athletes for motorsport?
I think you've got to be super well-rounded, not just focus on the physical side, but the mental, technical. There's so many little details that goes into all of it. The team will do their job to make sure the car's running right, and you have your inputs to suggest what could be changed and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're physically strong enough to be driving the car and it not be an issue. Basically, you train for the next step.
So with you preparing as an elite athlete, were there any physical challenges you found as you began stepping up the ranks?
Yeah, well, you have to always be training for the next step. I think that's really important. And when I did initially come into single-seaters, as I said, I didn't have a huge amount of guidance, so I didn't realise the actual commitment and you needed in the gym. I mean, I went to the gym when I was in school. I'd go after school, get on the bus, go straight thereafter. But I don't think it was the most productive stuff, to be honest. I'd throw some weights around and feel, that felt like I did something. But since joining the Alpine Academy, it's kind of, and been working with Alice, it's opened my eyes like, actually, I need to do this and target this to maximise it. And it's such a unique sport, I think,
sure.
in the sense of, you've got to train your neck, your core is really important. Obviously, every muscle, upper and lower body is important, but it's really demanding on them two areas. So you have to do some strange exercises with a neck harness on, and you're pulling some pretty ugly faces. But I think it just makes it that much more fun. People ask questions like, "What are you actually doing?"
So we've spoke to other coaches, and there's often a reference to front row rugby as a training, neck, posterior chain, right? And you don't, again, as a fan watching, you don't necessarily appreciate that when you're watching drivers. It also then brings up that topic around the gap between male and female capability at a younger age. Is there anything that, Alice has helped you work through that you've had to specifically train on? Because I hadn't even thought about the different physical demands at each level of car. How does that change as you go up then? What's happening?
So as you go up, at F4 level, I'm pretty conditioned to it. It's not anything physical for me. When you go up to Formula 3, you need a bit more power in your upper body because there's a lot more downforce and there's no power steering like your road car. Wow. So it means you've got to really hustle it, and it's heavier than F2 is the same thing. So you're cornering faster, so there's more G-forces on your neck, and you're strapped in, and it's the only thing that hasn't got any support unless you're on your headrest. But by that point, you're all distorted and everything's not right.
Just
so you need to make sure you've got a strong neck so you can see where you're going, basically. I think there's a famous clip of Ollie Behrman from Jeddah when he jumped in the F1 car and he's going like this because he struggled a bit. But it's, he's been racing in Formula 2 for a long 2 years now, and he jumped up to F1 and he struggled. So it just shows how demanding and how ready you have to be for that next step.
So with so much demands on you physically and mentally, how do you guys recover, at home when you're training, but also on the road? How do you get back to the starting line, I guess? Yeah,
well, I mean, obviously you use Hytro a lot, and I think I really like doing the Hytro stuff because it's so easy to do. Literally I do my cycle and then I can sit on my bed and strap myself up and get some. I think the thing that I hate most is not being able to walk the next day. After doing, I've done some squats and deadlifting today, and it's the worst thing is getting out of bed and you're like, oh. Yeah. So I love doing that. It's a really nice passive way to do stuff. But also, contrast showers. It's the same thing as what Hytro does with.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not a scientist, but the expanding and
Yep.
flushing your body, it's a similar thing. So even just a nice warm bath to soothe your muscles sometimes is nice. But it's really important, the recovery, because you've got to then do it all again, either the next day to be ready, or even when you're out in the car, if you are feeling a bit fatigued the next day in a car, it's not ideal. So you need to be very good at recovering.
So can you talk me through a typical day of training leading up to a race? Because I'm assuming you're always on training, right? You never have like days where you do nothing.
There are some days where I don't do a session because I'll be like going to London to do a podcast, and it's like I can get a little cycling or a run, but it's never anything too demanding. So that would be like an active recovery day for me. But every day that I'm not doing something PR related or driving in a car, I'll be in the gym. This morning I was in the gym this morning doing my session, and then normally the afternoon is full with media. And then if I do have the time, I'll do another session, like cardio in the afternoon, just to get it in.
So we touched on it earlier, like how do you just personally get through all of the travel, being away from home, being away from friends, having to like pick up and like, I understand maybe you guys aren't in the same setup as the F1 team yet, but like it's still hotel to hotel. How do you manage that as an athlete and stay sane, I guess?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've been used to it a lot of my life, the travelling. I mean, normally it was going every weekend with my dad in the camper van to racetracks. So it was normally a long drive, but now obviously it's going on a plane. It's not too bad really. I think the thing that I struggle with most is I swell up, so I have to wear my compression socks on the long haul flights outside. Like I can't walk off the plane. But going, from the hotels to the tracks to the next hotel, it's not too bad. I think the hardest thing is nutrition. Like, because you're eating out all the time, it's really hard to be like, find something on the menu that's actually suitable.
Yep.
And then the sleep as well. It's potluck whether you get a hotel that's got a noisy neighbour or not. People stomping down the corridors at 10 o'clock. You're like, why?
So obviously we've got another Netflix doc coming up to kind of like go behind the scenes of the series of F1 Academy. How important is it to you that type of media coverage happens to show people that it's maybe not all glitz and glamour and that's actually a grind to get to the top?
Yeah, I think it's super exciting that they're following us. Luckily I've been used to the cameras following, but it is quite intense where literally everything you say is recorded, and I have to filter myself a bit. I've got a bit of a potty mouth, so I'm like, there's no
you
boo.
can swear on this, it's fine.
Yeah, but it is good fun, and I think it's really great for people to see the behind the scenes and what actually goes into it. And they've already been here filming with us a little bit in the gym. Yeah. And doing some fitness tests like straight after a race weekend, or a triple header. So I was a bit groggy, but what they're doing is great, and I think it will just give that extra respect for us, hopefully.
Yeah. Is there anything you wish, if you could wave a magic wand, that you would show fans more of, so they understand like more about your sport and what you guys are doing? I
think just literally everyday life. Everyday life is always towards the end goal. Today I was in the gym. Every day I'm in the gym, doing a lot of comms, emails, trying to, raise funding as well. There's so much behind it all that people don't see. Yeah. Since I was, 16, I'll be making partnership proposals and so on. I mean, I'm very lucky now that I've got the support from Alpine and Rodin Cars, which have put a lot of that pressure off me. But in my earlier career, it was, really tough. Who is it that's in your support network that you think helps all this happen? Is there anyone particular around you that you're like, this is great? I mean, I'm so lucky that I've got a really big team around me now. I mean, I've got obviously Alpine, all the lovely people at Alpine. Too many to count that help me. I've got Soapbox, got a PR company that I work with that push me out as well. I've got some people who help me with the sponsorship side of things.
And you've got Alice as kind of a mentor, right?
Alice as well. Alice, she manages me, so she keeps me sane and keeps me up to date with a lot of my emails, to say the least. And then, like I said, my mental performance coach. So I've got more than I can count on my hands, who help me.
Do you have any other athletes that you're friends with that you kind of like?
Not too much, to be honest. Mainly other friends in motorsport. A lot of the girls that used to compete in W Series, there's Abbi Eaton and Jess Hawkins, Sarah Moore. They're a lot of my close friends, but also they very much are athletes as well, and they're a bit older than me, so they have been through it all, and they give great advice. Even if you need someone to just have a chat to, get some rubbish off your chest, they're great.
So you said before that big into football. What team do you support? I'm
a Spurs supporter.
Are there any athletes that you look up to that you might, I wouldn't say idol, but anyone that you hold really highly, in high regard?
Mary Earps, Heung-min Son and Valentino Rossi.
Okay. What are some of the long-term goals you have for your career in motorsport?
To be honest, everyone always asks me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I think because in 2021, I ran out of funding and it was a really hard time for me, but then I got a very lucky opportunity to compete in a fully funded series. And I always take perspective on that. And if it was an all-female series, so if I was a guy, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. So I like to make the most out of everything that I get. And for the people that aren't as fortunate, and at this stage, I'm like, in 5 years' time, I just want to stay driving. I just want to stay competing at a high level and, showing that I can race against whoever, I want to be at the front, and that's hopefully where I see myself in 5 years.
So in 5 years' time, when you're top of the game and you've got that Mary Up status, what is it that you think brands like Hytro, teams like Alpine can do to bring through younger generations of more Abbis? What needs to change to make it less of a conversation that you're a female driver? It's just more athletes, more drivers coming through.
To be honest, I think what we're doing is all there. We've got things like Race Her, which Alpine are doing to support the younger female. I always say I wish I was 8 years old again, because there's so many opportunities now for younger females coming through. It's just a time game, unfortunately, and in the next 10, 20 years, when the young girls on the Race Her programme are coming through and getting into F4 and F3, F2, it's not going to need the conversation anymore. I think it's just not going to happen overnight. It's just a conversation that will be going on until it's not.
Yeah, and then with hindsight now, if you were 8 years old again, is there anything you would do differently?
No, I think when I've got over it in recent years, but not dwell on the bad results. I think motorsport's really unique in the fact that weekend in, weekend out, every weekend you're competing. It's not like there's an on season, well, there is a bit of an off season, but it's an intense season. And, you have a bad result and then it takes a long time to just let go of it. Whereas you've got to be able to pick yourself back up again really quickly. Yep. I think probably, especially my earlier car career, I didn't let go quick enough.
Yeah, it's funny. We spoke to some tennis athletes and they likened it, whereas you have a series of events throughout a year, everyone shows up, but there's only one winner. I mean, lucky that you have like the points, there's for the guys still points, but everyone has to turn up ready to lose.
Well, it's the same.
Shake it
exactly
off and
the
then
same.
go, and I'm like, how as an athlete do you pick yourself up?
Yeah, I think it's all about zooming out, taking perspective on things. Be like, actually, I saw Barcelona. I wasn't very happy with my result there. I was like, actually, I finished second, scored some great result. It's great points. It just, things are out of my control. You've got to, put things down to what was in your control and what was out of your control, and then the things that are in your control, better it for next time. That's a really important thing you need to analyse. I think a lot of people, they're like, I don't know, focus on something that isn't in their control. And it's like, well, why are you focusing on that?
Yeah.
It's just human nature to focus on the negatives instantly.
Yeah. I think I've got 3 more questions for you. They're much lighter. First one.
What was my favourite ice cream? Was it?
Not that light. Not that light. What is the best and worst thing about the training you do in between races?
To be honest, I really enjoy my training. I think the worst thing is that I can't do it whilst I'm there on a weekend. I end up like getting in my schedule and then I'm out of sync with my programme. I think is the worst thing. The best thing is seeing the progress, and next time you go, being able to do an extra few reps or an extra set or lift a bigger weight. I always find that very satisfying.
Do you look forward to the pre-season camps?
Mostly.
Why only mostly?
They're pretty intense. We do like 3 sessions a day. One of them is normally a more active recovery, like we'll do tennis, but I can't play tennis to save my life, so it's more the squash and the paddle and that I'm better at, but even then I'm not very good.
You can't be good at everything.
I know, I'm a driver, that's
fine.
That's my expertise.
Are there any particular tracks or races that you look forward to most when you look ahead to the season?
Definitely all the street circuits. Very lucky that in F1 Academy we go to, I think, 3 or 4. Singapore, that one I've been waiting for all year, I'm ready for it. But also Zandvoort, that's a really amazing track, but also everything around it. There's got great food. When you leave the track, you go and have food on the beach. It's really nice.
Pretty good. Do your family come as well?
To be honest, my dad comes to a lot of the British ones, but my sister came to my last British race, but other than that, not too much. The flights over to go to Miami and Singapore and that, then the hotels, it all adds up. It ends up being pretty expensive.
And then I have one question I'd love to ask people. In your opinion, what makes a difference between a good and a great athlete?
There's a really I think it's the mentality, first off. And there's a really great clip from Novak Djokovic, and he said it's about the mentality, I can't remember it word for word, but about the interviewer said, you're very talented and naturally gifted for your mentality, how you're able to, just forget about the last point and go to the next. And he's like, no, I'm not gifted. It's something that I've trained at. It's something that I've worked at. I've had to, better myself in it. It wasn't a gift at all. And I think that's, like I say, you've got to pick yourself up from one round to the next in racing. It's exactly the same in that. And even if you're a runner and you've had a bad race, you've got to let go of it and go on to the next one. I think that's really important, how quickly you can bounce back. In tennis, I think he said he throws his racket on the ground, but then that's done. It's done and he's on to the next thing. You've got to have a little outburst. It's not a bad thing having a little outburst as long as you then reset yourself.
What do you think is a split in motor racing between physical and mental strength?
I think physical strength is kind of a baseline. Everyone has to have a very high level of physical strength, and anyone that gets to a high level does, you can't be there without it. But mental strength, someone could have really poor mental strength, but you can't. It's not something you can see until there's cameras on them or something. I think it's pretty 50-50, but I think you can't see if someone's mentally tough or not. You can see if someone's physically strong and so on, but it's really hard to judge mental strength.
And do you do anything to kind of recover that way yourself, I guess? How do you reset mentally?
I throw my little mental racket on the ground in some way or form or another.
Really?
No, I normally have quite a bit of frustration and I get it out. I think I used to hold it in because I thought it looks unprofessional, but I put myself for 5 minutes in a closed off area, kind of get it out, say a few bad words and then reset and go talk to my engineer and get all the productivity done. Yeah,
because similar to the reference made before around the high pressure of that you get as a single driver and the team relying on you, the physicality you need in some other really intense sports, there's obviously, I think, a shared value there. You need to get as close to your emotional red line as possible, right? To be good at your sport without going over, making a bad decision or...
Yeah, exactly. So the mental stuff that I do, it's called red to blue. And they're saying, you know, you've got to be in this blue head and you not step over to the red. And the blue head it's really close to the red. You know, you've got to be really intense, really like laser focused. And I've always said, like in my early, again, single seater career, when I worked with him, it was some of my best races were when I got taken off and the red mist, it wasn't the red mist, but I just got so intense and I carved through the pack and like got on the podium. And it's like, okay, but how did I get to that place? It's like, well, I got angry and it's like, okay, well, do I need to get angry every time I get in the car? It's like, no, but there's a way to, you know, now I've got a process of how I get to that point where I'm very intense, very deliberate, very, very present.
Yep.
And it took a few ups and downs to understand it, but, you know, now I can it's called like, you know, getting in the zone or something. And I think it's different for everyone and how they get there. And for me, it's normally anger. So I'll do some boxing before I get in, listen to some music, hype myself up, get my heart rate going.
What's on the playlist?
A lot of 80s.
Okay.
Or anything that you can sing to, like even, it's not the 80s, but like Britney Spears' Toxic, love that. Tainted Love, Soft Cell, that is 80s.
Did they ever catch you in the radio humming?
No, no. Fun fact, when I did first start karting, I did sing in my helmet. When I was like 8 years old, I was going around singing and my dad was like, I can see you, like, who are you talking to? I was like, I'm singing, concentrate.
It's right, runners do it, swimmers do it, it keeps pace, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. Could you talk to me a little bit more about the Racer program?
Of course, the Racer program, like I say, I wish I was 8 years old again. It's a great opportunity for young females in karting. They get a lot more guidance, which I said I didn't have at that age, and physically, mentally, as well as technically, they get more guidance working with people like Alice Powell, but also across the team as a whole through engineering, being a mechanic, you know, whatever aspect you want to go into. There's providing support and, you know, giving people the opportunities and experience that they need to go into that job role.
Yeah, it's actually quite unique. I think everyone is now more aware of the gaps across gender in sport. Even for us, look at all the research in blood flow restriction, I think less than 5% is done in female athletes. So actually, part of the partnership we have with Alpine, Warren and Dave will be working really hard to work out how can we do female-specific research that benefits you guys as a developing team, but also, you know, all athletes and all female athletes, hopefully across sports as well. So that's a really unique part of that. So when you're stepping up the level between cars, so now you're racing in F4, when you go to F3, what would be the physical shift needed and how does that change?
So F3 races are a lot longer. So my races now are 30 minutes, but an F3 race will range from 26 laps to, I don't know how many are in a feature race, probably 30, 35, I think. So they're much longer races, and that means you have to have the conditioning for that longer period of time. So a bit more cardio, but then also leg strength. The brake is much harder, so you need to have that explosive power in your legs. And then your neck, you need to have that conditioning for the longer duration of time in your neck, but also the extra power because it's more G-forces. And then, your upper body, the same thing as your neck. You've got to have the extra power because it's heavier, but also the endurance to last the whole race.
So as you go up the car levels, the training's going to get worse, is what we're saying. There's going to be more endurance, more strength training, more
basically.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah, I know. No, I enjoy it, most of it.
Abbi, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much. Thanks for the time. Best of luck for the rest of the season. I'm sure we're going to see you podium a load more times.
Thank you very much. Fingers crossed.